It is that time of year to discuss spooky reads. I do have a cat in my lap, but he's also in play mode, and the other cat is maybe winding down. We'll see what's happening. If you hear any noises, they're the kittens. Here, I'll show you one, because they're just going to be a common occurrence lately. But here's Kieran, if you have not met him yet. Oh, he's adorable, isn't he? Look at his eyes. He's just purring up a storm. He's a big cuddle bug, so maybe I can get him to cuddle in my lap for a bit if he's not in complete play and terrorize the world mode. But today, I wanted to talk about some of the spooky horror reads I've read in the last year since my last recommendation video for this fall. And I'll link down below my recommendation video from last year because I still stand by all of those books. I just didn't want to be repetitive, but it's a very good list. So if you need more recommendations, go there. Here, we're going to talk about 8 books that I think really work for this time of year, into November and stuff like that. So a good fall spooky time. And also, not all Halloween driven per se. Like I said, some of these I think would work into November and stuff like that. So we're gonna get into it, starting with my most recent spooky read, and that is Our Share of Night. I really liked this book. If you're someone who's just I just want a tome that makes me feel accomplished because I was immersed in a thing for so long, this really fits that whole idealized version of a reader, because I feel like that's a thing sometimes, right? We look at a book and we think of when we were a kid and we could just spend all the time reading and we had these aspirations and we're just yeah, I just want the big book, and then when I finished that big book I did a thing, and it gives you that feeling, and I think it's actually really well crafted. And it's the way I've looked at it is it's 5 or 6 novellas put together. It is all one overarching story, but each part is really its own way of telling a story. You kind of have I don't want to call it mixed media, and I don't even want to say it's different narrative framing, but each part is kind of distinct, at least in timeline and character perspective focus. So when you start this story, you meet Juan and his son Gaspar, and they are traveling to this place, and we don't really know why. We just know things are afoot, and the father is stressed. And, you're in that perspective for a good 100-some pages, and then it switches. And then sometimes you're going forward in time, sometimes you're going backwards in time, and it's got this great air of mystery around this occult culture in Argentina in the 20th century. And it really captures a lot of the nostalgia we associate with 80s horror, but in an Argentinian setting, and I really liked it. The audiobook was great, the physical reading was great, the cover is stunning. The paperback is finally out, so for those who are I can't hold that hardback, it's too big, which yeah, it's a bit large. The paperback's out, and it's a more reasonable size, so check it out. I'm loving it. Ryan's having a good time with it. People in the Discord have been really liking it. It's great for this time of year. Also, Latinx Heritage Month. If you want an Argentinian author or translated work, here you go. The next one I read earlier this year. Can't remember when. This is a good sci-fi gothic horror, and that is Leech. This is really unique. So our main character is actually a part of a symbiotic being, part of a we, and is going to this kind of mansion isolated in the middle of nowhere because one of their appendages is no longer working, was killed, and they're trying to figure out what happened. It's very The Thing, if you've ever watched that movie. It has that energy. It's very gothic, and it also has a really good conversation around, identity, abuse, and stuff like that. Incredibly good. If you are, for this entire list, we're talking about spooky things. Sometimes things are more graphic than people want. Sometimes there are themes that are touched on that are triggering for others. So take care of yourself. But in particular, Leech, I do think if there are certain content warnings that are your no-go space, check it out. But I thought it was a really interesting idea, fascinating debut. I personally really liked the audiobook because I think the narrator used a lot of voices really well, and I think it really helped me versus when I was on the page, I was a little bit thrown. Also, I believe I was told, I know the author's trans, they're non-binary, I believe, or gender fluid, and I believe the audio narrator is as well, which works really well for our pretty gender non-conforming main character. And so if you want trans horror, this is right here. It's atmospheric. It is very atmospheric. So if that's what you want, here you go. Kind of not atmospheric. It still has some creep factor, but this is definitely more good-natured humor and horror put together, and that is A House of Good Bones. This is T. Kingfisher. T. Kingfisher has a voice, a style, a humor, and that is very present here, especially in the character of Samantha, who is a bug anthropologist. There's a more official name for that. I can't remember it right now. But Samantha has to live with her mom for a while because a dig site she was working on had to be shut down because they found human remains. And she goes to her mom's house, which has suddenly been reverted back to how it was when her grandmother was alive. And this is all red flags. And it kind of goes from there. And you're going to love Vultures by the end of it because, per usual, the animals' characters are phenomenal. And the pacing might be a tad inconsistent for some people. I found it had some cozy slice of life qualities, and I loved Samantha's voice and how she responded to things that were happening, because this is kind of, your classic sort of haunted house adjacent story. And then the ending really ramped up. So if you're like, this book is too slow, there is a ramped up ending, and that's where the creep factor is. So if you don't worry if you need creep in your this time of year books. This has some creep, but I also think it's a very good introductory book for people who wanted a haunted house story. It has a lot of the trappings, it knows the tropes of the genre, but it's also not going to be so scary that it's going to keep you up at night, in my opinion. All right, now on to Lone Woman, which I love Victor Laval works. I do. Last year, my video had The Changeling on it. I'm happy to have Lone Woman on it. This one this year. Lone Woman is so good. But like when I was talking about The Changeling, I hesitate to be like, this is horror, because what he likes to do is play with plot points and conventions, but not necessarily time it in the way that you're expecting. And also he tends to do like what I think about with Pan's Labyrinth, is blend some genres together. So like I feel like both of the horrors I've read from him are more fantasy horrors, but not in the way that you're thinking. It's just like there's like fantasy folklore plus horror, and that's kind of what he does, but it's not necessarily melded together. It's kind of like, oh, we were in a horror story and now I'm in a fantasy folklore story, and it happens kind of in both, and I think that can be disconnecting for some people. So I guess I just don't want people to think it's going to be something all the way through, because then you'll be disappointed. But I really like this story. The story starts with Adelaide at her parents' house, cleaning up all this blood. They're dead. She's leaving to go homestead in Montana with this box, and we know that this box cannot be opened, but we don't know why. So we have this what's in the box energy. I love homesteading. I think the isolation of homesteading and survival is a really great setting. And the title, Lone Women, all of the women we get to meet and why they are lone in that community. I really like this story. I read it in February, and I still think about it all the time. So I really enjoy it. I recently just bought myself a copy because I'm just like, I need that on my shelf. Like, I don't even know if I'll reread it. I want Ryan to read it. I really like this book. So if you want a historical, horror, folk, fantasy type thing, pick it up. This next one's kind of actually just sci-fi, but it reminds me of sci-fi thrillers, sort of, or at least I was tense. This had a suspense energy to it for me, and that was Semiosis. This is a story about people trying to find another planet for humans to live on because we have messed up the Earth. I have a whole recommendation video in sci-fi of humans screwed up, therefore. Like, that's the thought experiment. In this one, we end up on a planet, and it's about how this community interacts with the fauna and flora and how civilization kind of continues. And there is a lot of, what's going to happen? Do I trust this? Like, there's a lot of suspense in kind of this first contact adjacent sci-fi story. And I read it in November last year, and I really liked it because it was also just had this foreboding atmosphere. So that's why I wanted to put it on this list. All right, this next one. This one's really good. I read this one in November as well, and that's Tumi, which is a short story anthology by indigenous writers in North America, so I think Canada and up sort of region. Many tribes, not just one or anything like that, and they are unsettling and creepy, and you're going to be like, is there something behind the shower curtain? Like, so well done. I loved almost every story in this. It's a really short collection. It's like this thin. So I recommend giving it a shot, buying it on Amazon, going to find it at your library. It's a phenomenal anthology. Really recommend it. It's just the pacing of these stories. Like, you feel like you're at a campfire being told like a ghost story. I mean, they're not ghost stories, but it's like that type of vibe, and it was great. I have another T. Kingfisher because I could not be stopped, and this is What Moves the Dead. The retelling of Fall of the House of Usher, which I haven't read in years, so I cannot speak to if it's a good retelling. The internet tells me that it is, so take that as you will. It's a story in its own right. I read it more like a Contagion story, And that's where all of the tension was for me. Because as the cover shows, you kind of know what the conceit is from the get-go, even if the book's pretending like the characters don't know, which I guess, yes, the characters don't know what's happening. But you as the reader, especially if you've been in this genre, especially if you've read Mexican Gothic or anything like that, you're like, oh, I know what's up. But that's not what makes a Contagion story tense. What makes it tense is you know, and you can't yell at these people to stop doing what you're doing, and you don't know who's infected. And it's so good. Also, per usual, in every T. Kingfisher work, I am instantly connected to the characters and their interactions with the people that they meet, and it's phenomenal. Also, really unique world building that's done subtly and then the perfect way for a novella. I read this Halloween weekend last year. Highly recommend. The audiobook was great. And yeah, it's a really good novella that expands on a short story by one of my favorite horror short story people, so, you know. And then the last one we'll talk about is The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Oh, I love this book. I need to get myself a hardback copy. One of my biggest regrets, as I've said in my recent TBR video, was I didn't buy this hardback when it was available in my store, so now I need to go maybe get it from Amazon or get it used, but I don't want the Book of the Month version because I don't like those versions. I just don't like the Book of the Month logo on it. I just don't like it. And it's the hardback material, like the dust jacket's not the same. It won't be the same. But The Hacienda, oh, it's so pulpy and good. So this is like my pulpy haunted house sort of Gothic thing. Like, it has some Gothic tropes, but I think atmospherically speaking, this is more of a haunted house pulpy story. Like, we have our main character who marries this man that she hardly knows and lives on his ranch because she wants to have a fresh start for her family, who got caught up in the Mexican Revolution. And so we're at like a different class in society now. So she's marrying to help her family, and when she gets to this ranch, this hacienda is haunted. And it's creepy, and she joins forces with this priest, and this priest has his own backstory and relationship to the land and his culture and his religion, and they're thrown into this together, and it's just classic instant chemistry between these characters and what they have to do to solve problems. Oh, it was electric. And the audiobook had a narrator for each of them, and I loved it. I loved the ending. Oh my gosh, so good. Definitely great commentary on, the theming was great. I really liked the theming. So it not only had good theming, just like Lone Women and other books that I talked about in this list, but it was just so pulpy. The creeping was creepy. That house was everything. The chemistry between these characters who are thrown into this high stakes bananas situation that they must survive. Classic. Awesome. It was really fun. I would watch a movie of that, like, instantly. So although I think it has Gothic tropes, like, I think some people comp this to, like, Rebecca, which I have not read, so I guess, I don't know. But in terms of Gothic movies I've watched and other Gothic works I've read, other than she marries a man that she doesn't really know and ends up isolated on this house, which is a Gothic premise, I just don't think atmospherically it is a Gothic work, in my opinion. So, those are my spooky recommendations for this season based off what I've read in the last year, since apparently I have become more of a casual horror suspense reader, which I don't hate. It's actually quite fun to do it once in a while. It's not my bread and butter, but I do like it, and I have a couple on my list for this October because I'm just kind of feeling it. Let me know any books you think I would like to read based off these list of books and how I felt about them. If you just want to leave an emoji to let me know you're here, leave a house, because there's a lot of haunted, spooky houses that I have mentioned in this video, because apparently one of my favorite tropes is a haunted house. I don't know why. I do really like it. I think the sense of place and home and how that can get warped is a very fun theme for me. But anyways, otherwise, like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.